Hello everyone. Since I'm probably not gonna be able to make the meeting today, hence the reason you're viewing the video. I recorded this brief introduction to the UIs of Blender, just so that you guys can have a basic understanding of how to navigate Blender before I show up. Um, so for the first time, when you open up Blender for the first time, it probably won't look exactly the same, since number one, because I have version 3.1 and I haven't updated in a while. But regardless, when you open up, you should see a couple of options. Um, the best way to just go with the default option, because those usually always work out. Um, but when you remember that when you create a new file, you generally want to start in the general type. So once you get in here, you should be able to see exactly what I'm looking, a default cube in the center of your screen. And then also, whenever you're lost, I have a add-on in the bottom left corner that mirrors what I'm pressing, so you can see exactly which button to use to achieve any type of actions. Anyways, so first things first, we want to know how to move around in this Blender space. So the way you do that, to rotate, you can hold down the middle mouse and drag. That's how you move. And then to pan, you can hold down shift and then hold the middle mouse to move like this. And then if you want to zoom in, you can just use the scroll wheel in and out. Okay, so that's how we move our current point of view in Blender. And next, I can show you how to move this cube, how to move objects in Blender. The way we do that is with the key G. G stands for grab, and it can move things around. So if you click G once, you move it around, and if you left click again, the object stays snapped in place. Another convenient way to move it is with if you press G and then press any of the axes like X, Y, and Z. If you click G, Z, then it will constrain the object to the Z axis, and it can only move along the Z axis. And then also click GX to move it in the X direction, and similarly GY to move it along in the Y direction. Right? And then if you want to create a new object, you can go to Add, Mesh, and then here you can see plane, a cube, a circle, a sphere, an isosphere, cylinder, a cone, torus. These are the primitive shapes that you will most likely be using for every single one of your objects. There's also a bunch of other things that will go into detail later. Okay, so why don't we add mesh a plane? Now, we knew how to move the plane around, but what if we want to scale the plane up? To scale the plane up, you can use the shortcut, the key S. S stands for scale, and now you can scale the plane up in the 2 dimensions because, well, the plane's a 2-dimensional object. Similarly, if you want to scale the plane only in the X direction, you can click scale X, and it will constrain it to the X direction. Scale Y, it'll move in Y direction, and then scale Z won't do anything because the plane's a plane. Okay, so let's make this very, very big. Okay, and then, cool, so now that we have a plane, why don't we add some more objects and just place them on this plane. Let's first move this sphere down so that it's right about on the plane. GX, GY, move it here. Let's add another, let's add a sphere. Let's move it up so that's touching. Okay, now move it to the side like this. And if you want to get a better side view, like look at it from this way, you can move your cursor over to the X, to the gimbal over here, and click X, and that will turn the camera so that you're viewing in the X direction. You can move these up like a little bit like this. If you have a numpad on your keyboard, you can also click 1, numpad 1, numpad 3, and then these will also lock you into an X or Y view. But if you don't have a numpad, that's fine. You can just click X and Y to go to different views. Okay. Why don't we add a cone and put it in line here. Okay. Cool. So now that we know how to move and scale objects in Blender, oh yeah, I should also add rotating objects in Blender is pretty simple as well. It's the shortcut R. R stands for rotate, and then you can rotate objects around. Similarly, you can click RX to rotate it in the X direction, RZ rotating it in the Z direction, and RY rotating it in the Y direction. Okay, so now we have 3 different objects here. What if we want to, let's say, make the object not so uniform, perhaps? One thing you can do is you can go to object mode on the top right here, and then change it to edit mode. So what edit mode does is that it allows you to edit individual parts or individual, how should I put it? Individual vertex, edge, or faces, certain characteristics of the objects. So you see here how the sphere is comprised of many different points, which we call vertices, connected together by different edges, which form the face. And so what we can do, what edit mode allows us to do, is that it allows us to move these individual points around to turn the sphere into a more interesting shape. Not only can we move the individual points around, we can also move the edges and as well as the faces. So one way you can change between vertex mode, edge mode, and face mode is with these 3 buttons on the top top left. But you can also go keyboard 1 for vertex, 2 for edge, and 3 for face mode. So now I'm in face mode, and then if I click 2, I'll be able to select the edges. And if I click 1, I'll be able to select the vertices. Now for these, you can also drag around to select multiple vertices at once. And you can also shift drag to add more selections like this. Okay, so let's see if we can move this half of the sphere up. Okay, so now we have selected half of the sphere. If we want to move this up, we can once again use the shortcut G for grab, and then now we've grabbed that half of the sphere, we can move it up in the Z direction. Okay, there we go. And to get out of edit mode, you can either change this drop down menu from edit mode to object mode, or you can use the shortcut tab. Tab key allows you to quickly change between 2 different modes, from object mode to edit mode. And yeah. So that's the basics of how you manipulate objects in Blender. So yeah, hopefully you've understood that well. If not, or if there's any other questions about what I went over so far, you can feel free to ask. I'm good at Blender, but I'm not particularly good at explaining stuff. So don't feel embarrassed to ask questions. You can either DM me on Discord, or you can reach out to me by emailing, or however you feel like. Right? See you soon.